Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day today. It's actually pretty cold. It was literally snowing yesterday here in Canada, and now it's bright and sunny. So kind of weird to see, but I mean, I'm out here working on stuff anyway because today I'm going to be doing the front brakes on the Tiburon in preparation for it to get safety. The last couple weeks have been extremely busy at work, but finally I've had some time and I was able to run to the parts store and get these things. I put the camera in the car because I don't want to mess up the audio here, but basically what's going to happen is I am trying to get a safety on the Tiburon, and then hopefully once it's safetied and it's got actual plate stickers, I can start driving it and get better practice with it. I drove it for a few days, but then I unfortunately had a bit of an accident. I'll tell you about that once I get the bill. I think it'll be interesting when I can show you what actually had to be done to fix it. But a lot of progress has been happening on the G35, and I have an update pretty much filmed for you on that as well. My garage is getting a lot more empty and I'm very happy about it. But yeah, actually parting out a car is a lot of fun. But for now, I'm going to be fixing stuff, so let me show you where I'm at. Alright, so here is my workstation. You can see my classic Home Depot bucket chair. I don't like to stand when I'm working on stuff that's low, just because I'm a little bit tall, so if I have to lean over for a long time, it hurts quite a bit on my back. But anyway, I've got some really cheap brake parts. This is certified stuff from the parts source, so it's not exactly gonna be amazing, but it is relatively inexpensive. These rotors are 30 bucks. These are also 30 bucks. So in total, it's like pretty cheap, which is nice. I've also got some synthetic grease for the slide pins, anti-seize, because we always need that, brake cleaner, just like WD-40 alternative. And this is what we're working with. The brakes in question. So when my car was in the shop getting fixed, you can see some of the fix right there. That is a new lower control arm. They advised me that my car probably would not pass the safety with these brakes, and I can kind of see why, especially on the back. They're very well worn, which isn't great. So I'm going to be taking these off today. We're going to have to take the caliper off to change the rotor, change the pads, and yeah, shouldn't be too hard. I have done this before on my Infiniti over there. I did all the brakes on that car at one point, and that was a bit of a hardship because I didn't really know what I was doing. But hopefully, because this car is a lot more simple, I should be able to get it done pretty easily. So let's see. If you've never done brakes before, it's a pretty good way to start working on your car because it's not too bad. Like, it's relatively easy. Like, in order to change these brakes, I'm gonna have to take off 4 bolts, and that's pretty much it. You can see one of them is right there. This is gonna be one of the bolts that holds on the caliper piece here, and then this is one of the slide pins. This is basically a long piece that goes into here, and I'm gonna have to take that out as well. So generally how I start is I take out the slide pins, take this off, and then get the pads out, and then we'll hang it up probably on the shock somewhere up here. We don't want to kink this line. That's a very important detail because I don't want to have to bleed the brake fluid or have to run out and go get more or something. It's not easy to get at the moment because everything's closed down here. And then once this is out of the way, I'll take this off, then we'll take this off, and then it's just the reverse with new parts. Pretty darn easy. This is what it looks like disassembled. Everything here came off really easy. Spare parts in here, old pieces here, and yeah, old stuff there. And that, surprisingly, actually lines up just enough to be able to hit that without stressing the brake line too much, so that's where I've left it. Turns out brakes on this car are literally like a 15-minute job. Like, my goodness. I'm sorry, it seems like everybody in my area is currently mowing the grass. It just seems to be the reality of things at the moment, but I want to show you why these brakes are not good. Like, if we look at this as it is, it doesn't look too bad. The pads themselves, oh my goodness, there's a plane too. I mean, they're a little bit rusty, not wanting to zoom in on that, but they have a good amount of thickness. Like, there is a decent amount of pad left, which is, I mean, the pads are theoretically fine, but the big problem here is that the rotor on the other side is just straight up toast. And the guy explained to me that this is likely because the car's been sitting for a bit and the pad material has worn off on the inside of the rotor. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys, but it's got a pretty significant ridge and it's pretty gross in there too, so that's why I'm replacing these. It's not really much money, it's like 150 bucks to do it, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the effort, brand new brakes, and that way we can hopefully have a better chance at passing the safety. And there's the new rotor right there. What you're seeing around the edge is actually anti-seize. I coat the entire hub, or most of it, with anti-seize. And then this brake rotor is kind of cool because it has screws that hold it in. My Infinity wasn't quite like that. But next thing we got to do is put this piece back on, which is pretty easy. Just 2 bolts on the back. And for that we have some big hardware. Now these were the little pieces that screw into the slide bolts. The reason I have that synthetic grease is for these. You can see the bottom one has a little bit of a rubber piece on it, and the top one has nothing. So it's important to make sure to put them back in the right spot. Okay, so far so good. Something funny that I kind of just noticed. The brake pads that I got are certified. They're cheap stuff, but they should work again. But the thing is, they didn't actually come with these pieces to slide on, so I'm gonna have to reuse the ones that came with the car, which is fine. I just basically took them off, put a little bit of anti-seize underneath them, and then we'll reassemble. Brake pads are in, and that means the next logical step is that we have to put the caliper back on. My method of squishing the piston back in, these are single piston calipers, is just using one of these clamps. Like, it's literally that easy. Metal ones actually work better. You just need to have something like this rubber piece in between, but you can see that it does work to flatten that out. And yeah, hopefully I can just reassemble and then we'll be good to go. What makes this easier as well is if you pop the cap off the brake fluid, and as you can see, it's real full because we are pushing it back through the lines the hard way, but that should be fixed in a second. And there you go. That's a full brake job. I just sprayed it with brake clean just to clean it up a little bit, and yeah, just gonna put the wheel back on, and I think we're good. Pretty happy with that. Hopefully it doesn't rub too much. I did have to extend it out all the way to get these pads to fit, but yeah, I'm just gonna go over and do the other side, and then I guess we'll take the car for a bit of a spin maybe. So I'm working on the other side, and I gotta say that this side is just infinitely worse. The bolts were a lot harder to get off, the rust on the rotor is just chonky, and I took off the pads. Look at the groove in that lad, that is significant. So it's a good thing that I'm doing this because that is bad. We'll see what the rotor looks like in a second. So I'm having a lot of issues trying to take out these screws here. As you can see, they're both at least mildly stripped. I even brought out my old school torque multiplying tool, which is pretty cool, but it's not enough apparently to get these out. They seem to be frozen right in there, which sucks. I might have to drill them out, which would normally be fine, but I don't have any extras. I mean, I could probably run without them, but I'd rather not. Oh man, I've spent more time on this than I did on the entire other side. That's kind of the way things are going. Oh my goodness, that was a battle of attrition. But if you're looking right there, that is a heat gun. And I managed to heat this assembly up a little bit, and I popped it off with a couple of really hard hammer swings, and a lot more before that it came off. But I think it's the best possible scenario because I don't want to touch it with my hand right now, but the bolts that were in there are actually out a little bit, so I should be able to take them the rest of the way out, ideally, and then we can put the new one on. But my goodness, that was a hassle and a half. Man, oh man. This side is much worse than the other side, and it looks like there's no anti-seize on there, so maybe that's why. I'll be putting anti-seize on this time.